Hey guys, welcome to the Sandro Linux Community Podcast. It is the 12th of April, 2024. So today we will be discussing a few stories. So the first story we will be discussing is 4 terabyte SD cards. So this is not something I would have really imagined 5 years ago. You know, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Well, I wouldn't have said 5 years ago discussing 4 terabyte SD cards. So, this is, a really high capacity SD card. I must say the write speeds aren't really good enough for the 4 terabyte spec. So 13 megabytes per second. Yeah, it might be enough for some use cases, but maybe not for, dealing with a 4 terabyte SD card. Now, this is a very niche product, I would say. So it won't be available until 2025, and when it is available, it will cost around, it says on this article, around $600 or more. So in the UK, that will be even more than that. That would be most likely, like 600 and something pound, and that's a high price to be paying for an SD card. And of course, for people who are handling 8K footage, that is justifiable. Maybe that higher price, you could, justify it. Because, of course, you're probably doing stuff with, like, red cameras or whatever, very expensive cameras that you are using, and you're more willing to splash out on SD cards. But for ordinary people, this is probably not worth it. And yeah, there are very limited use cases for this SD card outside of video and photography. And, perhaps if you wanted to test whether a phone could take like a really high capacity SD card, perhaps this could be a good test for it. But apart from that, apart from future phones which support this higher, capacity, there's not really that many use cases. And you should really, if you want such a high capacity drive, you should really just go for an SSD, so an external SSD, or an external hard drive. So yeah, so an external hard drive will serve you well, or an SSD if you're looking for faster read and write speeds. Now, do you have any thoughts on this,
Mhm.
Pigus? I mean, it's a pretty
I think
cool thing, but not really that practical.
I think you covered most of it.
Yeah. I mean, I could see some people buying this. I could see some people, who do a lot of photography, perhaps buying this. If they're, working with 8K footage, buying this. But outside of very select use cases, this will not really see that much usage.
It's very interesting how like they said that the SD cards could potentially handle up to 128 terabytes of storage.
I did not see that aspect.
So
100.
apparently,
Yeah, sorry.
mhm.
128 terabytes of storage. That would be absolutely, insane. So that's,
Also that they stated soon could hold up
yeah,
to that.
yeah. Well, who knows how soon is, because that is a very high number. But, of course, we have seen the sort of almost exponential increase in storage capacity throughout the years. At least it seems like it from, just a normal consumer perspective. And yeah, so once upon a time, a gigabyte was a lot of storage, and now, you know, we're getting like terabytes of storage in this very small form factor. So that's nice. That's always nice to see technological improvement, and of course that will continue to move forward until one day, it's no longer going to be that possible to increase the amount of storage such a small form factor can hold without some major change. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, moving on to the AI news, guys. So, this is the story we got to when we had some technical difficulties, but now we're back. So, ChatGPT has actually now got a new upgrade. So, if you are paying for ChatGPT Plus, Team, or Enterprise, you can now use GPT-4 Turbo. So, Turbo has some improvements, such as improved writing, math, logical reasoning, and coding skills, as well as having basically more eloquent speech. So it's a bit more conversational, a bit less verbose in its responses. So it will get more straight to the point. And that is a nice improvement to see, because sometimes ChatGPT can beat around the bush a bit. It can, use more words than is strictly necessary to describe things, but it's getting better at actually condensing down information, and this upgrade should hopefully do that for more users. So yeah, if you're paying for ChatGPT, or you're a work user, or a team user, then yeah, this will be a nice upgrade.
Mm.
Yeah, really nice, really nice.
They state that the knowledge of ChatGPT is up to date, and by December last year.
Oh, that's a big improvement, because usually ChatGPT has like the knowledge of somebody who lived like 2 years ago or something. Uh,
Mhm.
and yeah, now with that
Now it's just a few months.
what do you say?
Now it's just a few months.
Yeah, now it's just a few months, so you can ask it about the latest AAA game, and
Mhm.
as long as it was released a few months ago, it could tell you stuff about it. It could tell you about like whatever you want to know about news, maybe from like a few months ago. Yeah, you could get a lot of information from it, which you couldn't previously, because that is closing quite a gap in knowledge. So yeah, that's another nice upgrade for those paying customers. Now, moving on to a story that I've seen covered quite a bit. It's quite an interesting story. The FCC in the US, for the folks in the US, you can now apparently see sort of nutritional labels for your broadband specs. So now apparently you will no longer have to deal with those pesky little hidden fees on your broadband in the US. You'll now actually be able to see the exact rundown of the fees that you will have to pay in pretty much the exact same style to the nutrition facts in the US. So I've seen this labeling before on US products. And yeah, this is now, broadband facts, not nutrition, broadband. So this is quite a nice improvement for those in the US. And I hope a similar thing happens in the EU and the UK. I mean, imagine traffic light, traffic light broadband. I think that might be a bit of a difficult one to do, but but yeah. So if you could have a more simple layout to show how much things will cost, and perhaps make it easier for consumers to quantify that, then yeah, it could be a massive improvement for consumer rights, and that's always good.
More transparency.
Yeah,
Transparency.
yeah,
Yeah.
good. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah, good news. Now, moving on to the next story here. So, Orange so France Telecom, basically what it used to be known as, is apparently launching a youth training program in the Middle East and Northern Africa. So, apparently they are training people in key skills such as artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, and digital marketing. So, this is a pretty cool thing for those in that region. And of course, it is, always good to see more training programs getting people to get, be able to get more educated in technology. And yeah, overall, a pretty cool effort from Orange here.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, a little story there. Put, I was thinking, should I include that one? I did anyway. Just want to cover over it very quickly, and then we can move on. So now, so moving on to the Android news here, guys. So the leaked Google Pixel 8a renders show off the phone in 4 different colors. So apparently it will be mint, porcelain, obsidian, and bay. So I like that mint color. I think it looks like pretty nice to be honest. It looks like a pretty cool phone design. So maybe I might get a Pixel 8a. Who knows? But this is a pretty cool phone design in general. It just kind of polishes, I suppose, the existing Google design. They've had a similar design for a couple different phones now, and they do appear to be settling more on a certain design language for their phones, and I think that's a good thing for the Pixel line. Because, of course, some of their phones have been a hit, some of them have been not so successful, but of course, the 8A, yeah, it will be a test whether the 8A has any success. But of course, Google's budget line does usually get quite high sales. Now, yeah, let's move on, unless you have anything to say, Figures.
No.
Yeah, cool. So Motorola is teasing their new flagship phone for April the 16th. So apparently it is a new addition to the Edge family. So of course the Motorola Edge line has already been a thing, and apparently they are now going to be launching even more products in that line. So I've not really had my hands on a Motorola in quite a while now, but they are a pretty cool Android maker, and yeah, apparently this new phone will come with the fast 125-watt charging, so that will charge the phone quite quickly. And now they have launched, and now they've actually announced, another event, So the Endeavour OS devs have said goodbye to their ARM branch, and apparently now you will have to use the x86 option. So clearly, the maintainers of Endeavour OS are quite stretched. It is, or it's quite an admirable endeavor maintaining a Linux distribution, and of course, it's quite a difficult one. So I understand why they do this, but of course, it is quite annoying for those on ARM platforms, such as the Raspberry Pi and a number of other devices, because now you will no longer be able to use EndeavourOS. Do you have any thoughts on that,
I
Pickers?
think it had a lot to do with the desktop environments not supporting it properly and stuff.
Yeah, so of course, if desktop environments won't support the ARM platform, it does make sense if EndeavourOS try and discontinue that, because of course it's going to be very hard to maintain a desktop without the a distro without the desktop environments being on board.
Mm. Yeah, no, one of the maintainers of the ARM branch like heavily relied on ARM hardware.
Oh, okay.
Like recently slowly moving away to x86 because of like support issues.
Oh, so yeah, so of course they're not going to be able to maintain the ARM version if they're now running x86. That makes sense. Thanks for telling me about that, Piggis. Now, let's continue on to the next story. So, Google is apparently threatening to cut off news in California after it proposed paying, the Californian government proposed paying for paying media outlets. So apparently, this new law could force Google to, I'm guessing, pay up. Yeah, pay up for linking news articles. And we've seen similar legislation in Australia. I mean, Facebook and Google blocked their stuff in Australia for a bit. Definitely Facebook. And yeah, we didn't see much happen there, really, when it comes to a reversal. So I imagine similar will happen here. I imagine people in California will just no longer be able to access Google News. That is if they keep to their word, and they don't just continue supporting the California market. It does seem weird, though. It does seem weird for Google having to discontinue a product in their sort of home state. But yeah, I suppose that's the reality. Yeah. But yeah, I wonder how they dodge around it apart from just discontinuing it in California. Anyway, moving on to the next story. So the OpenTable reservation system is apparently now going to be adding the first names to formerly anonymous reviews. So this comes after news from Glassdoor, a very popular career site, that they were doing similar. So this is quite a bad story for those who, value their privacy, those who handed over their name with full knowledge that it wouldn't actually be handed out, who thought that that was the case. And now it's being handed out by this website without really much consent. And yeah, that is a pretty bad thing for people who put their name down on this website. Yeah, I mean, it's basically like getting doxxed.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're in Europe, hopefully you could do like a GDPR request to try and get them to remove it. But apart from that, I'm not sure. Anyway, moving on to the next story. So, Apple Health Study proves that anybody can run a marathon. I'm not sure anybody can, but let's continue on. But yeah, so apparently, they ran a study using the Apple Watch, and it showed that apparently 50% of participants had at least one single running a workout of more than 5K or more, and apparently they continued on to run more and more. And yeah, this is an interesting study. I'm not gonna go too in depth with these numbers here, but it is cool to see Apple using this technology for good, partnering up with different organizations and actually um using their data that they collect for a good thing. Now, of course, you can opt out of this data collection, and of course, you might want to, but it's a nice thing for those who want to give over that data. Anyway, moving on. Do you have any thoughts, Piggers?
No.
Okay, how about we go on to a controversial one, Piggers? Ready for that one? Anyway, so apparently the UK government says that they want to ban, UK ministers apparently might be considering banning the sale of smartphones to under 16s. Now, the details of this one are a bit like, not exactly too clear, because this isn't even draft legislation yet. At least I don't think it is. And apparently, this is basically because the majority of people in the UK believe that it's a good idea to ban sales of smartphones to under 16s. So that's the reason why ministers are going ahead with this. But yeah, I would say I do agree with this statement. It is a bit out of touch. Realistically, in 2024, most people, pretty much as soon as they go to high school, use smartphones. It's going to be very hard to police the sale of phones, and of course, having to show ID to buy a phone. I mean, come on, man. That is pretty bad, I would say, but yeah. And from a more sort of practical standpoint, apparently they want to limit people who are under 16 to only using phones which are suitable for them, which don't have all the social media apps that are out there. So how are they actually going to ensure that there's a child-friendly phone? Who knows? Not clear yet. But they would have to design an entire new platform for that. It would be very costly, and I don't know what the actual plan is for that. I mean, what? What do you think, Piggis?
I mean, it is true. Like they can be very harmful for younger people who don't know what they're doing online and stuff.
Yeah,
But I
true.
think this is a little bit overkill.
Yeah, I feel it might be. I also feel it might be a bit sort of distraction of sort of like a political distraction, because of course ministers want to push this sort of banning of the sales of smartphones to under 16s to distract from other scandals going on within government. So of course, you can say, think of the children. What about, them? Why are we selling phones to under 16s? But of course, maybe banning the sale of smartphones to under 16s is, not the maddest thing. But then actually saying that under 16s are not allowed to use regular phones, that is a bit of a hard one to enforce, I imagine. And also, yeah, it's not like smartphones are literally like, drugs. Um, I mean, some social media apps are quite addictive, but I think this is going a bit overboard. Yeah, so yeah, I don't agree with this. I don't agree with the Online Safety Act because both have some sort of measures which go a bit overboard in my personal view. However, you can have your own opinion on this one. I mean, getting ID'd for buying a phone might be a bit weird. I mean, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Yeah, but I'm willing to hear your thoughts on this one, guys. Yeah. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Like, subscribe, and share. See you guys in the next one.